Hey guys, welcome back to Play on Footy. Today we're going to be doing a round 20 roundup, and what a round it was. For the tips, I did get a game wrong, and that was the Blues and Port game. I did tip the Blues, but Port did upset the Blues, which really comes at a time where the Blues are trying to push for finals, of course, but they did have Mackay out, and they were coming off a 5-day break as BT commentated on the game, and Port were coming off a 7-day break. But at the end of the day, Port were the deserving winners, and they were trying to sack their coach a couple of weeks ago, and now they've turned things right around, and similarly to the Dogs, and we'll get to that in a sec. For the Blues game, I was really impressed with how Kerno stood up in the lack of Mackay in that game, and I think also Pitternet stepping in for TDK was pretty good. He was coming up against Jordan Sweet, who's probably not the league's best ruckman, but all in all, I thought those two players did quite well as Elijah Hollands and Walsh as well, and Cripps. But for Port Adelaide, I think they really were just pressure from the start. They were, putting it on. There were a couple of unlucky sort of calls on shots at goal. One that scraped a goal flag that was on the post, and so that was a bit unlucky for Port. But then they managed just to keep fighting, and they came out on top, which is pretty good. So yeah, I think Port are definitely poised for big finals campaign, and I don't see them missing finals at this point. I think Port are in the prime seat going forward. The next game was Roos versus Cats. I did tip the Cats, and I think the biggest thing here was that the Cats were just too poised. They were just too skillful, made the most of their opportunity. The big improver and outlier for me was Ollie Henry. I think Ollie Henry, had a pretty good game up forward. They had obviously Neil that came into the side. I think he's like a 200 centimetre key forward. But yeah, Ollie Henry, he's had a pretty quiet year overall. But this game he really stood up. I think he kicked 3 goals, and he was fantastic. So I think he's definitely one that's surprised me in this game. Tanner Bruin was another one for the Cats who really stood up. And then for the Roos, obviously Shees was the one there, and Cherry was just absolutely had a great game. Obviously against the Cats, he came up against Blitzarves, which, isn't really a ruckman as such. They sort of play him on the wing at times, the Cats. But yeah, overall, I thought the Cats were just, a bit too much for the Roos, and just too poised, and they got the job done. And the next game was the Suns versus the Lions. I tipped the Lions. This was in the Q clash. The Lions, they were in it from the start, and they upset the Suns at home. I think that's the Suns' first loss at home for the season. It comes at a time when Lions are just looking so formidable. If it comes down to two teams that are in form currently, it's got to be the Lions, and it's got to be Hawks in the power rankings by far. I think they've just shown that switched on. If you came up against the Lions in the finals, you better watch out, especially if you're playing them at the Gabba. That's for sure. So I think for me, the Lions key players was Orko, Dunkley, Neil. In the middle, they played a really good game, really sharp brand of football. And then for Suns, I'd say Flanders really stood up at points through the middle as well, and sometimes forward, but not really. And then I'd say Witts did an okay job on McInerney. It was pretty hard to split the two ruckman. Overall, it was a pretty good Q clash. But I'm sure Dimmer would be pretty disappointed. Obviously, his finals hopes for his first season at the Suns are slipping away pretty rapidly. So, in that instance, I think Chris Fagan should be pretty happy with what he's been able to do. And funnily enough, Stuart Dew was actually on the coaching panel for the Lions, and they flashed the camera to him at the game, and everyone booed him from the Suns. So that was an interesting fact as well from the game. Next game is Saints versus Bombers. I tipped Saints, and I didn't really think it would come to fruition, really. But it did, and the Saints were just too good. Roll Marshall, Jack Steele, Sinclair, the usual suspects for the Saints were just on fire. And then for the Bombers, Parrish came back. He played an alright game, but overall, I think Shields played a pretty good game. But it was really Merritt. Merritt gave his heart and soul for this footy club, and just another wasted season. You know, people are saying, well, Bombers are the biggest pretenders in the league. Well, they're probably right. You know, to be so close to... They had a pretty good draw at the start of the season, let's be honest. But yeah, this back end is really going to test them. And if they win another game at the end of the season, I'll be very surprised from here on in. So yeah, they're not going to play finals this year. Yeah. And to be honest, I think a lot of people were surprised with how high they climbed this season, but they've fallen just as quick. The next game is Demons versus Giants. This game was a 2-point thriller in front of 16,000 people at the G. Many of those were Seagulls. But yeah, look, Demons and Giants, what can I say? I think, you know, Demons brought back Gawn, Bailey Laurie and Woden. And then the Giants luckily had Taylor, and Taylor has been missed for the Giants. He did really well in this game, for sure. I think the important thing to remember here is that Giants, you know, they are wanting redemption from last season when they narrowly got beaten by Magpies in the prelim, I think it was. So yeah, I think they're as hungry as ever to, you know, get back into finals and really prove a point, which is fair enough. I mean, I don't know how many more seasons Toby Green has. But yeah, overall I thought, you know, Jesse Hogan played fairly well. And then Tom Green and Whitfield, oh my gosh, just unbelievable. Big Briggsy up in the ruck against Gawn did pretty well. Again, hard to split the difference, and you could probably tell Gawn was coming back from that lower leg injury and was labouring a little bit, not his usual mobile self, that's for sure. But yeah, the Demons, to have their coach come out of hospital, coach them is yeah, good on you, Simon Goodwin. That's great to see. But yeah, overall, it'd be disappointing if you're a Demons fan. One, the lack of support at the ground looked like COVID times, and two, you know, to lose 2 points to the Giants, they've pretty much, you know, buried any hopes of finals. So yeah, it was just a bit of a sad thing for the Demon supporters, and yeah, probably not the best in the league, a lot of people say, but yeah, not what you want to see, especially at a prime time slot on Saturday night. And the next game, Dockers versus Eagles. I was definitely tuning into this one, the derby, whatever you want to call it. I tipped the Dockers. Wow, Eagles first half was amazing. I definitely thought they came out to play, and it was just a refreshing brand of football for the Eagles. It was actually like they cared. And then yeah, the Dockers in the second half, they were just too good. They came out and they just smashed us. And I think, you know, Waterman did pretty well. Jack Williams, wow, why don't we play him more beforehand, before someone got sacked? Would have been, you know, he's a welcomed addition. And then yeah, Bailey Williams, I feel for him. He's had to shoulder a lot of the ruck this year and last year and the year before that, and recruiting Flynn and not having him out in the park has definitely, you know, hurt us structurally. But I think overall, Yo was fantastic. Reed, you know, had some fight in him. And then for Dockers, definitely Sarong, he won the Glendenning medal. Brayshaw. And then yeah, Darcy Jackson, bit of a quiet game. But yeah, overall I thought, you know, the Jeremy Sharp played a good game, I thought, as well. So yeah, Dockers definitely deserving winners in that game. The next game is Collingwood versus Richmond. This one was a bit of a snooze fest. Nick Dacos just ripped it up in the first half. I think he got 26 disposals. It was just unbelievable. But yeah, for Richmond, Adam Uze, I mean, yeah, it's his first year. He's got to make some changes at footy club. The first change he did was remove all the premiership flags from the venue, their club headquarters. And the second move is to basically get rid of David Teague, assistant coach. So he was one of Hardwick's recruits. So yeah, he's gone now. So there's going to be a lot of changes at Richmond. And from a list management point of view, Richmond have a lot of older players that need to be moved on by the end of the season. So I think Liam Baker, Shai Bolton will be looking for different clubs as well. But yeah, similarly, Collingwood have a lot of list decisions as well. So both of the clubs, you know, are in sort of similar territory there. But yeah, I thought for Collingwood, Darcy Cameron played really well. Nick Dacos and Josh Dacos, I thought, were standouts for that game. And the next game was Swans versus Dogs. Wow, I did tip the Dogs, but yeah, I didn't think it'd be a massive blowout like this. Yeah, wow. I don't really know what much more to say. The Swans just look shell-shocked. Goulden wasn't moving like his usual self. Still scored really well. I think he had like 30 plus touches. But yeah, Warner, Chad Warner was another one that just looked like nowhere. He got heavily tagged, big time. And for the Dogs, I'd probably say the best player was Ed Richards, maybe. Yeah, Bont played pretty well, I'd say as well. But overall, yeah, they just all played together, the Dogs. That was the thing. The Swans, you could see they were really fractured and just not. They're playing a really reactive brand of football, very similar to that of the Blues versus Port game. There was nothing working for them structurally. So yeah, Horse would be absolutely filthy with that game. Especially at the SCG, it's their home ground. So, very disappointing display. I'm sure the Swans will bounce back next week. And the last game was Crows versus Hawks. Yep, I tipped the Hawks. The Hawks are just phenomenal. As I said to you, the two teams that are best in form, if I were to do a power rankings, would be Hawks and Lions by far. And the Crows, they just, no Dawson, no Crows. Even though they brought back Tex Walker, he kicked a couple of goals, that was great, la-di-da. The Hawks are just way too strong, and I think, the Hawks, if they're not going to threaten finals this year, look at next year. I think, give them another preseason into the younger guys, and it's going to be phenomenal. So I'm really looking forward to that. But yeah, overall, I think it was a great round of football. There's a lot more to be sort of dealt with in the coming rounds up until round 24. But yeah, what do you guys reckon? Comment down below, like and subscribe. What was your favorite game? And yeah, we'll see you in the next one. Look forward to it.